So the brief history of data. Without further ado, let's begin. So this is a completely optional module that will just touch on some significant historical points in data collection, from the first records of data collection to the launch of Amazon Web Services. Again, this is a completely optional module. It will not be very in depth, and I'll skip many things. What I want you to learn by the end of this module is appreciate the different ways that data has changed over time, recognize time between advancements in data is reduced. All right, let's begin. The very first forms of data were basic accounting and inventory data used to keep track of food and other goods from ancient civilizations. So they would do this by simply putting a tally next to, first they would draw a picture of an animal on a stone or a bone, and then they would use a tally stick, so a tally to tally how many animals they had or how many grains, how many bags of rice they had, for example. As civilizations evolved, they would simply use a symbol instead of the picture of the animal, and after that, they would start writing the actual name of the animal. So the earliest example of data collection I can find is the Shango bone, which was used as tally stick around 90,000 BC, and this was essentially a baboon bone that they used as a tally stick. All right, now let's move on. In the 1640s, was the first instance of the word data was used in English language. Before that, the word data simply didn't exist. In 1663, this is very important, John Grant conducted data analysis. This is one of the first instances of descriptive analysis. The accuracy of findings has been subsequently called into questions, but what he essentially did was collect death rates and birth rates and their fluctuations during the bubonic plague in London. He did this by collecting parish records and researching them. From the data he collected, he was able to predict life expectancy in different parishes. His findings were subsequently published in the Royal Society of London or the London Harbour Show before that. This is one of the first examples of gathering public health records in the UK. So the interesting thing was that before then, people recognizing when people died and when people were born was not done in any official capacity. They would normally do it through London through London parishes, or just parishes in general. Sorry, and this was done as the parishes would record when you died and when you were born. They would sometimes they wouldn't record when you were born, but they record when you had a baptism. So just an interesting fact there. Now let's move on to the next major step in data collection. So in the 1800s, 1801 was the first instance of the census, which has been carried out and published every 10 years from 1801 to 2021, with 1941 being the lone exception because of World War II. This is still used today. You cannot understand how the census influences politics, our lives, and what decisions governments make in the future. By the time we got to 1880s, the government's need for data had changed, and we're collecting more data points than ever before. This essentially means they're collecting more data. So they might just ask for your name and age. Now they might ask for your name, age, address, and religious beliefs. So more data. And because of this, the traditional way they used to analyze data through hand to paper was only completed near the time for the next census. The general consensus for me was when I found through researching, it was completed 8 years, completed 8 years after the census was done. But it could be up to 9 years if the analysis was completed. So this meant the data they collected was outdated and not relevant for them, for the purposes. They couldn't influence policies for the next 10 years if they only completed analyzing it 1 year before the next census. So in 1884, Helmut Hollerith created a Hollerith tabulating machine. This was essentially a punch card tablet machine. This uses time to analyze data from years to months. It was first used in the US census in 1819, and then it was later adopted by the UK. Interestingly enough, the UK created their own tabulating machine after this. And Helmut Hollerith went on to found IBM, one of the big data companies in the world, which is still in use today. All right. Now, in 1928, the magnetic tape was invented by Fritz Fulmer. This meant that data could be stored and collected magnetically. This is extremely important because this was because this became the main source of data collection and storage for the next 60 years, till 1982. All right, so if magnetic tape, a good example of this, if you're young, is like a VHS chip you put into video, and then when you pull that black thing out, that's a magnetic tape, or floppy disk. When you open floppy disk up, you'll see a black CD, and that's just magnetic tape coiled around each other, which you can also pull. In 1943, the Colossus was created as a data processing machine to decipher Nazi codes. There are many leaps in data storage, data collection, and analyzing data created during World War II, as the computer was created then as well. But I'm just going to mention one, which is the Nazi codes. Interestingly enough, the reason why they could decipher code in some of the messages, the Nazi officers would end each message, encrypted message, with "Hail Hitler." So even if the cipher was there, you could always figure out because one word was always the same. In 1970, Edgar F. Codd presented a theoretical framework for relational model database management, history of data. This framework is very important. This framework is very important today, and is still used today, as it's something. It is something that is being used for my database right now for this website. All right, in 1982, it's not mentioned here. I should mention the CD was created, and the CD has been continued used till now, arguably, but it is it has dropped the use has dropped 97% from 2000. Quite interestingly enough, you can find a famous image of Bill Gates hoisting 3,000 pieces of paper in one hand, sitting on 3,000 pieces of paper, sitting on a stack of 3,000 pieces of paper, and being hoisted up in a crane and holding the disc in another hand like this and sitting on the paper. He was trying to show that a CD disk stores 300,000 stacks of paper worth of data. And as you can see, this CD was in 1982. He did this in 1994. So it was still not widely adopted. The CDS form data collection was still not widely adopted. That's why Bill Gates had to pull this promotional stunt. All right, in 1989, Tim Berners-Lee and Robert Goldthorpe founded the World Wide Web, meaning data can be shared worldwide and with anyone. We cannot understate the importance of the internet and the way we live. Quite interestingly enough, if you read many science fiction books, there are many future technologies, but very few of them predicted the internet. In 1996, storing digital data became cheaper than storing data on paper. And this just meant more data was stored digitally, just because it was simpler and more efficient for companies to store data digitally, and that's a major step in data analytics. In 1997, Google was officially launched. This put data in the hands of anyone with access to internet collection and a computer. And in 1999 was when the SD card was invented. And another quick one is in 2005 is when the micro SD card was invented. And in 2006, AWS, Amazon Web Services, offered cloud computing services. So that's as far as I'll take my brief history of data. And now as data has changed significantly, and there'll be many more revolutions in data collection But what's next for data collection? Well, the next step in data collection is probably powerful AIs. Currently, the next step in data collection is cloud computing and how more data is stored on cloud services than before, especially because of COVID, which hypercharged this, which means because data stored on cloud services are more secure than stored in your local hard drive. After that, it will be powerful AIs that predict behavior, and that's it. Thank you for listening to this module, and I hope you enjoyed.